Has the secret surrounding Oumuamua finally been solved? Since its discovery quite a while back, the interstellar visitor has been eclipsed by one central question: what in the world is it? While the strange flying object is sometimes thought to be a comet and sometimes an asteroid, it also confounds scientists with the way it phenomenally accelerated after flying past the Sun. Considering this strange burst of speed, there is indeed even speculation that Oumuamua is, in fact, an extraterrestrial spacecraft. And that is not just us saying it, it was suggested by the prestigious Harvard professor Avi Loeb. However, astronomers now believe they have identified the true reason behind Oumuamua's surprising acceleration, and it doesn't actually have much to do with extraterrestrial civilizations or exotic probe crafts. On October 19, 2017, modern space exploration reached a significant milestone. This was the day that Robert Warwick first managed to identify an object in the solar system that was clearly of interstellar origin. Despite this, the initial excitement quickly gave way to great confusion. The properties of the object were so abnormal and strange that no scientist understood what they were dealing with here. This initiated Oumuamua, which means scout or pioneer. The interstellar visitor was initially thought by scientists to be a comet. However, this assessment was soon discarded after follow-up observations revealed no tail or coma typical of a comet. Thus it came to pass that, only 7 days after the discovery, the galactic orbit changed, and Oumuamua was hence considered an asteroid. So, was the case solved? Well, not really, because the object did indeed exhibit flight behavior that defied all known asteroid designs. But, each thing in turn, when Oumuamua was found on October 19, it was already coming back into interstellar space. Researchers determined that it had already passed its closest point to the Sun, known as perihelion, on September 9. And while the object had come as close as 37.6 million kilometers to our mother star, during this time, it then did something that left the researchers utterly puzzled. In detail, the orbital investigation uncovered a mysterious acceleration. Overall, when Oumuamua moved away from the Sun, it traveled somewhat faster than the mere impact of gravity would have allowed. From there, scientists were inevitably confronted with the problem of what was behind this unexpected speed boost. Initially, outgassing of volatile materials was proposed as a potential explanation. This isn't surprising since such a process is quite common and occurs, among other things, when a body is heated to high temperatures. However, this assumption also had a small but crucial catch because typically, outgassing is accompanied by a significant change in rotational behavior, which simply couldn't be detected in the case of Oumuamua. The mystery continues to shed light on the true origins of Oumuamua. Researchers thus coordinated basically all the telescopes available to them to study the interstellar guest. They also realized that the object is subject to astonishingly strong oscillations in brightness, which in turn indicates that it resembles a giant cigar in shape. Simultaneously, however, the collected data was insufficient to reconcile the aforementioned brightness changes with a plausible rotational behavior. In light of this, it appears that Oumuamua doesn't rotate around one of its main axes but literally reels through space. No less puzzling was the fact that no dust was detected in the immediate vicinity of the object. Consequently, scientists believed that it doesn't contain water and may consist entirely of metal. Regarding its specific dimensions, researchers again had to rely on estimates due to the lack of concrete data. Based on the properties used for reflectivity, density, internal elastic strength, and axis of rotation, possible dimensions result, suggesting that Oumuamua could be either 800 meters or just 100 meters long. As for the object's origin, researchers have yet to provide a definitive answer. The mysterious trajectory suggests that the point of origin is somewhere in the constellation Lyra. Soon after its classification as an asteroid, Oumuamua was then renamed as a comet, but not every scientist is convinced by this classification. Other studies have concluded that the object is more likely to consist of frozen hydrogen, or perhaps Oumuamua is a nitrogen ice fragment that was once ejected from a Pluto-like exoplanet. So far, so moderate. However, it could be a lot more controversial. Harvard professor Avi Loeb actually approached the Oumuamua mystery from a slightly different angle and suggested that we may not be dealing with a natural object at all but with an artificially made one. Is Oumuamua an extraterrestrial spacecraft? Loeb isn't what you would call a controversial astrophysicist. For instance, he claimed to have found mysterious objects at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean that would demonstrate, and I quote, extraterrestrial technology. More specifically, this refers to many unusual fragments of interstellar origin that Loeb claims to have identified in the remains of a meteorite. You likely also remember the supposed extraterrestrial mummies that were presented in the Mexican parliament in September 2023, and guess who was live-streamed from Harvard to comment on the search for extraterrestrial objects in the atmosphere and in the solar system? Considering this, Loeb's remarks on Oumuamua are not exactly shocking. Perhaps it could really be an artificially made object from an extraterrestrial civilization. The observed acceleration and the lack of dust production would perfectly match the properties required from an incredibly thin object with a large surface area. On this basis, Loeb theorized that Oumuamua could in truth be a solar sail, a body propelled by the radiation pressure of the Sun or another star. But if you now think the rest of the research community promptly dismissed Loeb's comments as outright nonsense, you're mistaken. In fact, the possibility of an artificial origin was not outright dismissed. So, it happened that the radio telescope at the Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia turned its gaze to Oumuamua to search for potential signs of artificial origin a few weeks later. However, the extraterrestrial enthusiasts received sobering news: no evidence of artificial signs could be found. As the genuine reason for the acceleration became increasingly difficult to explain as a result of technical drives, the researchers needed to look for other more conventional explanations. And although Oumuamua was discovered in October 2017, as mentioned, it was not until March 2023 that the relieving news finally made the rounds. Astronomers announced that they had finally cracked the mystery surrounding our interstellar visitor. And regardless of whether the corresponding explanation has anything to do with solar sails or extraterrestrial civilizations, at least some extraterrestrial hopes remain for the more alternative camp. These are undoubtedly hypothetical models and considerations that offer a plausible solution but have not been directly verified in the case of Oumuamua. Nevertheless, it is evident that no scientist has ever seen a comet that lacks a dust coma and is accelerating in such a peculiar manner as Oumuamua. But on the other hand, it is clear that Daryl Seligman and Jennifer Bergner have, all things considered, managed to reconcile the peculiar conditions with a rational hypothesis. According to the scientists, the answer to the Oumuamua question is hydrogen propulsion. However, the couple reached this conclusion after examining a series of laboratory tests conducted between the 1970s. In the 1990s, these tests showed that water ice can deteriorate into atomic hydrogen, affected by serious grandiose radiation. An item traveling through the interstellar medium is, in a real sense, cooked by that same radiation. Considering this, it seems reasonable to expect that Oumuamua also formed hydrogen. However, the fact that the hydrogen shouldn't have escaped into space right away to explain the speed increase after Oumuamua's orbit around the Sun represents an issue. Luckily, Seligman and Bergner had a reasonable answer for this too. The hydrogen initially remained caught in the pores of the ice. Hypothetical computations showed this is anything but unrealistic. A large portion of the hydrogen formed in the ice under interstellar circumstances stays trapped in the water lattice. This only changes when the icy gel warms up to temperatures between -258 and -133 degrees Celsius. However, as long as this temperature limit isn't surpassed, the water ice remains undefined. It only solidifies when it warms up to the proper temperature. While Oumuamua was entering our solar system, the hypothesis goes, the sun's rays warmed up its outer covering, causing the water ice to change its structure. The pores that were opened in the ice during this process allowed the extremely volatile hydrogen gas to escape. This also explains why the outgassing seemed undetectable to Earth-bound researchers. The molecular hydrogen could not be distinguished by spectroscopic examinations at all from a purely visual perspective. It, therefore, created the impression that the flying object had neither a characteristic tail nor a coma, rather than the traditional outgassing of comets. The departure of hydrogen would also not produce any significant residue development, and even if the ice lattice should have contained dust, it was probably not out of control by the outgassing. Now, this sounds quite good, but is this exceptional structure of outgassing also suitable for explaining Oumuamua's astounding velocity increase? Well, yes, it does, given that the object is relatively smaller. In the case of a comet a few kilometers in size, outgassing would likely have no significant effect on flight conduct. However, assuming the cigar-shaped object is only 100 m long and 20 m thick, the process might have produced adequate thrust to account for the observed speed increase in motion. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the universe. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more amazing updates.